I don't know exactly when the classroom changed from a place of chalk and paper to glowing screens and silence, but it happened quietly. One year I was teaching Shakespeare with a battered paperback. The next, the students were highlighting Hamlet on tablets. I suppose that's how time works. It doesn't knock. It simply arrives. My name is Thomas Elridge. For nearly 42 years, I was a high school English teacher. I stood before restless teenagers with half-read books and dreams bigger than their backpacks. I loved it. Not just the subject matter, but the rhythm of school days, the morning bell, the smell of old textbooks, the nervousness before a pop quiz, the chorus of chairs scraping the floor at the end of class. But mostly, I loved the students, the quiet ones, the loud ones, the ones who hated reading, the ones who wrote poetry in the margins of their notebooks. I saw them all, and over the years, they became my mirror. Each class, a season. Each face, a story. I remember a boy named Isaac, tall, awkward, always drawing in the corners of his assignments. He never looked me in the eye, but one day he stayed after class and handed me a sketch of me at the blackboard. It was beautiful. He said nothing, just nodded and left. Years later, I found out he became an illustrator in New York. I still have that sketch. There was also Hannah, who once wrote an essay about her grandmother's hands. It was raw and imperfect, but it made me cry. I wrote her a note in the margins. You have a voice. Never stop using it. When I retired, she sent me a letter saying she was teaching now too. Said she wanted to make kids feel seen, the way I made her feel. Some say teaching is a thankless job. Maybe, but I never did it for thanks. I did it because I believed that stories could save us, that helping a young person find their voice is one of the quietest acts of revolution there is. The first September after I retired was the hardest. I woke up early by habit, reached for my lesson planner, then remembered. There was no class today. The house felt still, too still. I walked by the bookshelf in the hallway and let my fingers touch the spines of old lesson plans, faded novels, student essays I couldn't bring myself to throw away. But even now, in my 73rd year, I still teach in small ways. I volunteer at the library. I read to children on Saturdays. Sometimes I see a teenager hunched over a book in the park and I smile, knowing they are exactly where they need to be. If I could stand before a classroom one more time, I wouldn't start with a grammar rule or a Shakespeare quote. I'd say this: your life will be full of deadlines, but don't forget to pause, to read, to ask questions that don't have answers. The world is loud. You don't have to be, but be kind, be curious, and please, whatever else you do, don't lose your voice. Because in that room, for all those years, I didn't just teach English, I listened, and in return, my students taught me how to live. Now, I sit by the window in my little house, a warm cup of tea in hand, and I think of them, not as grades or report cards, but as moments. Laughter echoing in the hallway, a hesitant hand raised in the back row, a story whispered before the bell. I wasn't perfect. I made mistakes, but I was present. And sometimes being present is the most a person can do. So if you're listening to this, whether you were one of my students or simply someone who believes in the power of words, thank you for letting me share my voice, for letting me teach. One final time.